this is something that can be done. And it's a good question that you asked. I had always been a science student from school, and biology was my best subject, although I did well in the other science subjects as well. But my passion had always been in English.
I see.
So I decided to pursue my passion. So that's why if you pursue your passion, whether you're working late, whether you're working on weekends, so work does not seem hard to you at all.
I see.
The thing is, we might wonder, can we change that?
Yeah.
So sometimes it has to be, you've got to persuade, or maybe use persuasive language to allow them to do that. And that was precisely what I did in my interview at IIUM, when I talked about the change that I'd like to make. And that's why they sent me there for multilingual, multicultural education. And over there, they did not have any problems to take me as a doctoral candidate. Yeah. But very interesting question. Good question. Yeah.
So previous administrative post held by Prof. Rana is Dean of RMC IIUM, and also she also used to be Dean Dean for CPS. So we are in good hands actually. We can see that she had done a number of talks on writing winning proposal, especially for FRGS. So okay, Prof, the screen is yours. I'm going to stop sharing. So Prof boleh start lah.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Farida, and it's so nice to see all of you here. I see that there are 82 participants, and I wish I could see your faces. And we wish sometimes that it could be in a face-to-face setting, because a face-to-face setting is very dynamic. And I see Dr. Bilal, Dr. Asim. Thank you for being here. All the other doctors here as well. Dr. Kabuye, very nice to see you. It's good that, and Dr. Suhaimi, thank you for being here. It's good that that although sometimes we may not be turning on our cameras, but you do have your pictures. So at least I know, and Dr. Dwi Febrianti, saya baru je balik dari Indonesia, jadi enak sekali makan masakan di sana. Indonesia is one of my favorite countries. So we do get to, and Dr. Mehmet, also from Turkey, right?
Yes, good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Are you from Turkey, Dr. Mehmet?
Yes, I am from Istanbul.
Okay, another one of my favorite countries. We have lots of friends there. Need to go there. Need to go there. Now that we are more fluid in terms of our travels. So Alhamdulillah, I get to see my colleagues here, and although some of the camera might not have been turned on, I do get to see you through your pictures, and that is a good thing. I am not able to put my picture in my camera because my computer is a very old computer, and that's why now I'm using the CPD computer so that I will not have problems with that. Okay, before we start, actually, I just want, to me, when we are having a session, it's very important to me that this session is not a one-sided session, where I do the talking and, anyone, the others listen or not listen, perhaps. But it's very important for me to have a two-sided session. This is easier when we have a face-to-face setting, because I can take a look at Dr. Farida. Dr. Farida, you have a question. I see you frowning a little bit. I see that your face tells me you're asking a question. Okay, would you like to ask your question? I can easily talk to you because I see you like that. But of course, here in this kind of setting, where we are doing it online, once we're presenting, we don't really get to see our colleagues. We don't get to see who they are that's there. We don't get to see whether or not they are, they're having some kind of question in their mind and so on. So what I'd like to request of all my colleagues here is that, please feel free to ask questions at any time. You don't have to wait until the end of the session, but you can ask these questions as as the presentation or the session progresses, because then it will allow me to address your questions there and then, without having for you to wait. Because sometimes when you wait, you may forget the question that you have. It may be that what I said at a particular point in time is not that clear to you. So please feel free to interrupt me. I don't think of it as something rude. It's not rude, because it is, for example, Dr. Farida is saying something. Okay, Dr. Farida, could you just explain that part a little bit? I'm a bit, something like that. So then she can go on to do that. So I really hope that this will be an interactive session, because I want this session to benefit my colleagues here. And if there's anything that I have not covered that you would like to know, please do ask me as well, because what we are presenting is based on our how shall I say, a guess, educated guess as to the needs of our participants. So so based on the topic and based on my discussion with our colleagues at CPD, I have I've prepared my presentation in the hopes that it will benefit my colleagues here. And also, before we go on, I just want to thank CPD for the topic. I think it's a good topic that they have come up with. They talk about, the topic has to do with persuasive language. How do you persuade? How do you persuade? How do you persuade our grantors, our funders, to part with the money and support us in our research? So this is a very good topic, and this topic actually does not focus on a particular research grant, for example, like the FRGS or the TRGS. So this topic applies to and what I'm about to say should apply to all the other research grants that we will and should be trying to get. All right, so it's not just from Malaysia, but there are also research grants, given by other countries, for example, and I would like to encourage our colleagues to apply for that. So the principles are somewhat the same, although the grants may be coming from different sources, the funding may be coming from different sources, but the principles of what it takes to write a convincing proposal, they are the same. Right, they are the same. So I would like to share that with you. I would like to share that with you. All right. Again, before we go on, can I? This may not be the best means to do it, but at least it's something. Can we have a show of hands? Oh, Dr. Sohela, you have your hands up. You have a little hand there. Do you have a question, Dr. Sohela? Sometimes.
Assalamualaikum, Prof. Maybe it's a mistake. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
okay. All right. Because
I'm sorry.
now, okay, sometimes that happens, it can happen. Okay, so right now I would like to ask, and this one I want to see a show of hands. I would like to ask, how many of you have applied for research grants by using this? Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay, great. Okay. Many of you have applied for research grants. Okay, I can also see there. You can also use your the button there where you can raise your hands. Now 16, so, quite a number of you have 20 participants have raised your hands, 22. So you have we do have, oh, okay, great. So now I see a lot of you raising your hands there. Okay, you have how many of you have not yet? And this is not a crime, this is not a sin. How many of you have not yet? Oh, a lot, 105 listening. All right, so not yet not yet applied for research grants. Okay, not yet. Okay, that's nothing wrong with that, because this is why we're here. Okay, okay, so there are participants who have not yet applied for research grants, because there is always a first time. There's always a first time, and for some this will be a first time, and so there's nothing wrong with that, and that makes this session even, I know that this session, inshallah, will be meaningful for my colleagues, I hope. Yeah. I do want to ask this question, and that is, how many of you have applied for research grants as a principal investigator, but are yet to get a research grant? Are yet to get it, because in the future you're going to get it, so are yet to get. Okay, we have 11. And this is the thing about research grants, we apply, we may not get it. Okay, so quite a number of you have raised your hand, when you said you have applied, but you have not, you are yet to get, because the future, you are young, and the future out there, you have a good future. So yeah, thank you very much. So there are some of you here who have applied but are yet to get a research grant. So this is the thing, we need to know, we need to do our best to apply for research grants, and to write convincingly. We need to write. So what do we do? What do we do, and how do we go about submitting our research proposals such that the likelihood. Oh, Dr. Chin, you're having some coffee, I see. I see your coffee there. Looks great. Okay, so such that the likelihood of getting a research grant is increased. We all need to know that every time we apply, we need not necessarily have, or we may not always be successful. We may not, but that shouldn't stop us from trying. So what are the things that we can do or think about and prepare ourselves for, and then write, such that this increases the likelihood of our getting the grant. All right, let me just start my presentation now. Oops. Let me, okay, I haven't shared my screen yet. Okay, that's good in a way, because let me just prepare my slides such that okay, please bear with me. Oops. Okay, now I'm going to share my screen. Okay, do you see my screen? Yes, yeah. Okay.
Boleh.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Mehmet, and Dr. Farahida. All right, so the topic given to me, and the topic given to us is this: persuasive language for grant proposal presentation. All right, so when I got the topic, I in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, what is it that perhaps our colleagues at CPD would like me to talk about, and that my colleagues in the university would like to know. So so this is a topic, and it's a very good topic because I think Dr. Farida and Prof. Mira. Okay, I'm at this age where sometimes, although you know the person very well, at a particular moment you totally, you lose that. All right, so
Prof. Anna,
yeah.
There's a request untuk buatkan dalam bentuk slideshow.
Oh yes. Oh, is this slideshow? Okay, this is
It's not a slideshow, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay. All right.
Okay. Right.
So,
It's okay now. Okay.
Dr. Farahida and Prof.
Prof. Mira.
Prof. Mira, Prof. Mira, have actually come up with this title, which is a very good title, as I mentioned, because I believe from the title, they would like us to be able to write in such a manner that we are able to persuade our grant providers or funders to sponsor us or to support us in our research. So so how do we go about doing that? All right. So so I think this is a very good title. However, I've made a slight change to the title, and that is this writing and presenting, because we have two parts: the writing of the proposal and the presenting of winning a research proposal. So how do we go about writing a proposal such that it becomes a winning proposal, and how do we present, when we present our proposal, how do we go about it such that it becomes a winning presentation? So this is and although the title has been changed a little bit, but we're still going to discuss persuasive language, despite the slight change in title, because when we we need to look at the when we are looking at research grants, we need to look at the whole picture, and that is what are some other elements that go into the success of our proposal, because there's many elements, several elements. So how do these elements now come together such that it becomes successful, or such that we hope to be successful in our attempt at submitting this? There are also chats here. Do we perhaps later on, Dr. Farida may want to check to see in case there are questions that I need to answer from the chat. Yeah. So again, feel free to interrupt me by speaking out, or you can put it in the chat box where Dr. Farida will occasionally check the chats to see if there are questions. So however, and a question coming from you orally is also good. In fact, it's very, very good. All right. Okay, we have asked a question because I asked a question before the presentation. So some of you have never applied for research grants. Some of you have applied, but not yet gotten a research grant as a principal investigator. So with this background, we hope to have a fruitful discussion. So please do ask any questions. Anything that you're frustrated with, you don't understand why this happened and that happened, please also ask that. All right, in terms of what we'll be covering, there will be two parts to this presentation. In the first part, I'll be talking about the basic elements of a proposal. What are some aspects of a proposal? A lot of us already know basically what a proposal contains, but it doesn't hurt to go into some of these basic elements so that we are clear about what actually it is or they are, so that when we write it, we fulfill what is expected of each of those things that they have. They will have maybe executive summary, problem statement, and so on. What is actually expected in those columns or in those sections that they have specified. So the basic elements of a proposal, what are they? And what is often considered the most important part of a proposal? There are many parts to a proposal, but what might be considered the most important part of the proposal? This is a very important thing. All right, and what constitutes a winning proposal? Okay, and So we are also going to take a look at how we can persuade our evaluators that our research should be funded by going through some proposal abstracts, or in some other terms, sometimes we call them executive summary. Because proposal, some term these proposal abstracts as proposal abstracts, and some term them executive summary. So we'll take a look at what are these two creatures, or the same creature with two different names. So what are they? What do we expect of them? How do we write such that it fulfills the expectation of the funders? And then in part 2, we will be taking a look at, are you able to see the words here? Because my screen is blocked by the bar.
Boleh, Prof.
Okay. Boleh ya? Okay.
Prof boleh move bar tu sebenarnya, kena drag lah ke atas sikit.
Boleh kan ya? Tak apa. So yang ni in part 2, we are going to be focusing on the oral part. Some of our colleagues here, in fact, all of you, inshallah, there will come a time when, your proposal has been shortlisted and you will be called to defend your proposal. And that's a day that we hope to see happen to us. So what do we do when we are called to present? Okay, this which of course we should be very, very happy, and we'll go back to that later. So the second part of it is on how do we go about presenting ourselves and our proposal when we are shortlisted to present this proposal. This is also a very, very important part of proposal submission, and being selected to present your proposal need not necessarily mean that your proposal has been accepted or will be accepted, but there is a very, very high likelihood that it will. And in our minds, we have to say, okay, I'm going to go there and get it. No wimpy, no feeling scared. We have to have it in our hearts and in our minds. Yes, I am going to give it my all. All right. So we should we should consider this as something, a great opportunity where we have that opportunity to persuade them again, and to shine, if you will. All right, to shine, meaning, I'm going to do this. How do I prepare myself? So this is something that also we will go into. Okay, so let's take a look at the basic elements of a proposal, some basic elements. Some proposals, depending on the funders, will look different in terms of the elements there. Not every proposal, not every funder will have the same sections or the same elements that they would like to see. But the basic elements that I'm going to share is usually present in almost all the proposals, whether they're from the Ministry of Higher Education Malaysia or other funders in Malaysia or funders abroad. So some basic elements of a proposal, number one would be the abstract or the executive summary. Right? Some term it as abstract, some call it the executive summary. And I just did a casual search yesterday on the internet and I asked the question, what is the most important part of a proposal? And guess what? The majority of, you can do it yourself, the majority, and in fact a lot of the websites or the websites that guide researchers on how to prepare a research proposal, they talk about the executive summary or the abstract as being the most important part of a proposal. But that's not the only part, but it's a very, very important part of the proposal, and a part that we should not, we should truly focus our attentions on, because we want to capture the funders through the executive summary. Because funders don't have a lot of time on their hands, especially when they're talking about thousands. You're talking about applying for Malaysian research grants, for example. There will be like thousands of them. The FRGS can have as many as 8,000. In one particular year, there was more than 8,000. There were more than 8,000 applications. And so they will not have time to, they will not be going through all the aspects of a proposal, but they will go through the title and the executive summary. So the executive summary is a very, very important part of the proposal, because in that 300 words, the Malaysian Ministry of Higher Education asked us to do it in 300 words. Some foreign grants, such as the ISDB grant, asked for 400 words. So in the 300 words or 400 words that you are asked to write about, you have to capture them. You have to capture their attention, and you have to capture, they have to see from your executive summary that that this is something worth reading further in your proposal. So you need to, at the level of executive summary, you need to win them, because if you don't win them at this level, they may not go to the rest of the proposal. This happens everywhere, not just in Malaysia, but in other countries where there are many funders. For example, the ISDB, in its first year that they had opened it, I believe there were 100,000 applications for the ISDB grant. So we're talking about capturing, and we need to be able to do that, right? So the abstract or the executive is the most important component of the proposal. So we need, according to many people, and according to many people that guide other researchers, and for the reasons I've given before, because you need to capture the audience, and the audience is the evaluators. So we need to spend time developing it. How do we go about framing it, developing it? How do we put it together? So we need to spend time, and this is not necessarily an easy thing. From my own experience, for example, for my first executive summary, it took me quite a number of hours, perhaps, especially when you don't know yet what you want to do. When you're sort of like toying with the idea of what is it that you want to do, it can take you longer. But once we know, okay, I want to do this, and I want to do this, and this is actually how I'm thinking about it. So when we are clear about what we want to do, it's easier to write the abstract and executive summary. We will take less time, but because sometimes as researchers, there are occasions when we may not really be that clear as to what our research is, what it's going to be about. Has anyone ever come across that kind of feeling? Because our minds are still, we're still thinking about it. So at that particular time, it may not always be that easy. So we need to really think or spend time developing it, because this is the most important component of the proposal, according to many how shall I call it? It's not websites. Many, when people advise other people, there are this is the most important part. And then in the executive summary, normally they definitely have to talk about the problem. And this is what the executive summary should contain. And in some grant funders, for example, in the Ministry of Higher Education, for the FRGS, the TRGS, for example, I think most of this is almost the same, with the exception of perhaps one or two grants such as a PRGS perhaps, but when it comes to executive summary, it is somewhat the same. They'll ask you to talk about the problem, problem or the issue, and so on. Or what is the methodology used? Who will benefit from the outcomes of the research, and so on. So these are some aspects of the executive summary. We'll take a look at some of these aspects and see that not everything that is required in the abstract, if the funder has stated it, not everything deserves equal time and equal percentage of written words on it, for example. So some funders do not specify what it is to be there. They don't specify, but quite a number of funders do. Okay, and so there's also the statement of a problem or statement of need. And this is, yes.
We have a question.
Okay. Thank you.
When is the right time to use abstract and executive summary? When is the right time? Dr. Akmal, boleh elaborate sikit soalan?
Okay, please, Dr. Akmal. Yeah.
Apa maksud when is the right time tu?
Maksud saya, when is the right time to use the term actually in writing the proposal? Can I just use abstract, or can I just use executive summary? Which is the term that is the most acceptable one?
Okay, I think that's a very good question, Dr. Akmal. In fact, I'm sure you're going to be happy with this. In fact, you don't even have to consider when to use it, because the funder will actually call it either the executive summary or the abstract. In the Ministry of Higher Education, for example, will always call it the executive summary. But some other funder out there, and there are lots of funds, international funds out there. I just want to also encourage our researchers to take a look at what's out there as well. Some international funders may not call it the executive summary, but an abstract. So you don't have to worry about the term, because it is the term that's going to be used by the funder. But the reason I put it in here is so that when we apply for it, in executive summary, go abstract. For example, so you're wondering, they ask for abstract, is it different from executive summary? So the expectations of what an abstract is and what an executive summary is, they are seen the same. But okay, that is the thing. Yeah, there is a looking at the term abstract may make us think that this is a summary, a mere summary. Okay, a mere summary of your proposal. But I do want to let my colleagues know here that it is never a mere summary. The word mere shouldn't even be there. It's not a mere summary, or it's not a mere summary, or it's not a mere abstract. It's not merely descriptive. All right, it's not merely descriptive. The executive summary or the abstract has got to be persuasive. So the aim of the executive summary or the abstract is to be persuasive. But the term abstract, so it's a very good question that Dr. Akmal asked, because the term abstract, or we are used to the term abstract as something that may be describing what it is, but it's not going to just do that. All right, so if you go into a research grant or apply for a research grant where they ask you for an abstract, do not stop at explaining or telling them what it's about. You have to tell them why you need to fund it. So it's going to be persuasive. So the abstract or executive summary is not only an abstract, not only a summary, it is our persuasive attempt to convince the funders that we should be funded. All right, so thank you so much, Dr. Akmal, for the question. It's a very good question. And also in many abstracts, the funders do ask about the methodology, and as well as the those who will benefit from the outcomes of the research. So they put it differently in some grants, the funders ask for who will benefit from the outcomes of research. But in some grants, such as Ministry of Higher Education, they do ask also who will benefit from the outcomes of the research. This is a very important part of the abstract, as well as perhaps the contribution to its relevance to certain government policies. All right, so because the government is there to help certain people, for example, B40s, for example. So is this going to help B40s and so on? So who will benefit from the outcomes of research? Government policies, for example, sometimes expected, or almost often expected in the executive summary. All right, the statement of a problem or the statement of a need is what is the problem you're addressing and why is it important? Here, in the little number of words that they give us, whether it's 300 or 400, we need to actually make them see what the problem is, right? Make them see what the problem is. And so it can take quite a bit of doing, but I think once we are used to doing that, then it'll become easier over time. And why it's necessary to conduct the research and to have it funded. Okay, we also have the third element of a proposal. In many proposals, in almost all proposals, will be the methodology section and the outcomes. What methodology will you be using to address the issue, the problem, and the research objectives and questions, and why? So it's not just about the methodology, and the methodology section is not just, okay, I'm going to use this, but why are you using this? So so it's not just about I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this, but why I'm doing that. All right. Present a timeline of our activities. In many grant applications, they do have specific timeline, even Gantt chart, for example, in Ministry of Higher Education, what specific outcomes will be achieved. This is also very specifically stated in the different sections, but in some it is more sort of like broad and fluid. But we have to remember that we shouldn't go overboard, of course, in terms of length, but we need to put in the important elements of a particular aspect. For example, methodology. What should be there. And if you have further questions on that, you can also ask as we go along, or even at the end of the presentation. So for the methodology, we need to be specific and sufficiently detailed. Right, we need to be specific. What are we using? They can tell. I mean, once they say, okay, I like this executive summary, I like this abstract, let me go further. All right. What methodology are they using? You cannot have it so skimpy such that they don't know what we're doing, for example. They don't know what we're doing, and they need to know from reading your methodology that you have a good idea as to how to conduct it. So we need to have that good idea of how to conduct it. We need to now present it in such a manner that the details are there, but and that is sufficiently detailed, it's specific, but not so long that nobody will want to read it. All right. So this is where later on I will suggest to you that I don't know, Ministry of Higher Education right now. In the olden days, before they put it in the system, we could bold, we could put subheadings and bold them. Now I'm not sure whether we're able to bold them. So what I do is I use capital letters so that they know this is one section. They can actually know what our methodology is by looking at the the Q, the subheadings and to know what it is. All right, so this is the methodology and outcome, and then the budget. The budget is also a very important part of the research proposal. It has to be reasonable and well justified. Don't ask for so much thinking that there's, ini mesti nak potong costs, for example. I mean, we can't have that expectation, we need to be able to give a reasonable budget. I mean, not something like, let's be real. Does this really need 200,000 ringgit to fund, for example? All right, we do understand that but of course, if it's needed, then you should ask for that. But they are experienced enough to know that for what we want to do, it shouldn't take this much, for example. So we do not want to be seen as being asking for a budget that's not reasonable, because that may undermine our credibility. All right, so ask for a reasonable budget. Think carefully about what it is that you want to do, how much might you need to be able to do that, and so on. All right, so these are some of the basic elements of a proposal. So how do we make our proposal a winning proposal? So how do we do that? Number one, follow the guidelines of the funder. All right, this is something that we all have to do without exception. We need to know the guidelines. We need to really read, whether it's FRGS, you don't take it for granted. Tak apalah, I will just do it. We can't do that. We need to follow the guidelines. We need to really do that. Remember, a lot is at stake here, and what is at stake is whether or not we get the grant. So we need to do our homework, to take a look at the guidelines, make sure that we follow the guidelines, know the guidelines, and follow the guidelines. Okay, before we do that, let me just share with you this. What I would like to share with you here is okay, do you see this? I have brought you to a page called the Toyota Foundation grant. Can you see it, Dr. Farida?
Tak dapat.
No.
We are
Yes.
still seeing the slide.
Oh, still a slide.
Sebab kalau Prof share screen kan, patutnya boleh je kan?
Itulah patutnya.
Prof share
Okay.
slide. Prof kena stop sharing dulu.
Oh, stop sharing dulu eh?
Uh-uh.
Technology it's very good. Technology is very good, but for people like me who may not be experts in technology.
Okay, nampak dah.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for telling me at this point,
Okay.
Dr. Farida. So I'm sharing with you the Toyota Foundation a webpage. There are many grant funders out there. So they have many grants. They have a research grant program. So now in the 2022, it just closed, I think, sometime in June. They have the international grant program, special subject program. This is quite new, and so on. So what we need to do is we really need to go into it and know about it. But of course, they put it here, and it's not too difficult, not too how shall I say? We're not going to suffer when we read this, So this is something that you may want to take a look at. So here, research grant program. This is an international grant program. I believe I am now at international grant program. Yeah, okay. So this is international grant program 2022. So you'll see here program. So we need to understand what is it they want, what is it they will fund. The program is called Cultivating Empathy Through Learning from Our Neighbors. Practitioners exchange on common issues in Asia. So this is a very interesting. very interesting grant, very interesting grant funders. So when we read this, you know, when you read this, we will try to see, or we need to try to see is, oh, am I interested in this? You know, for example, maybe uh, this seems to have a social science. Yeah, Dr. Farid, I'm asking Dr. Farid because she's an engineer. All right, like a social science bent to it. But who knows? A creative engineer may work with a social scientist and you know, cultivating empathy, for example. You know, so how can we look at this from a certain perspective such that it allows us to be funded by this funder, for example, right? So you know, the title Cultivating Empathy, many of my colleagues here who are from the social sciences may want to take a look at this, for example. You know, how do we cultivate empathy through learning from our neighbors, and so on and so on. So these are the objectives. This is a grant framework. You know, this is there. You know, we can take a look at that total amount of grants, 70 million grants. Project period is 1 or 2 years, for example. You know, selection of grants and so on. The grant applications, frequently asked questions. We can and should take a look at that. It is of course closed. Grant proposal guidelines. We can't afford to be malas or a bit lazy to read. We should read it. A sample of an application form, and so on. Recommended movies too, those that have actually that you can take a look at that too. Recommended documents. These, a lot of these are from past grant, successful grant listing. All right, any comments from the committee chair? You know, we can learn a lot from the comments of the judges or evaluators, for example. And we also have, we are also able to take a look at the grants. So this is a project title. You have to click on this one to get a feel. All right. So here, harmonizing society through migrant worker and foreign investor cultural education. Okay, and as you can see here, and later on, I will probably get back to this. This one, abstract, yeah. Dr. Akmal, here they call it abstract, right? So abstract here, they don't use exactly the same, but say abstract. But in here, you have to persuade. Here, and then you know, this is the thing that they're showing us. This one, this one, this one, and then this leads to negative problems arising in the relationship between workers and employees, and so on. So here they're telling us something. This, you know, the magnitude. This is the magnitude of the problem. This is what's happening. You know, what's there in Vietnam, and the statistics on it. And then this leads to negative problems arising in the relationship between workers and employers, and between migrant workers and the indigenous community, for example. So here they are trying their best through this to allow or to show to the funder that this is a very important problem that needs their help. All right, and of course they have been funded. All right, so this one has been funded. They got how many yen? They got 3 million yen. I didn't bring my currency exchange, but we can always take a look, you know, and so on. So we can take a look at past this thing. All right. Okay, so Toyota Foundation also has what we call also the research grant program. So this is more research oriented in that sense. This one, international grant program, is more more of a community thing. All right, it allows, so those of us with a bent on the community, and of course it's a research based thing as well, the international grant program, but it wants to allow people to work together, get together, the people from different countries in ASEAN, and also so how we can generate empathy, how we can how shall I say, learn from each other. So this is the for the international grant program, this is the thrust of it. But the research grant program, this is more research oriented in that sense. And you can take a look at that as well. Program theme, interlinkages, and innovation. It's calling your name, Dr. Farida. It's calling your name here. And maybe from my other colleagues as well. And innovation need not necessarily be in the hard sciences. Even there's innovation in processes, for example. So if you want to make things easier for rural societies, for example, that's also innovation. All right, so again,
Ayatlah, Prof. Dia nak bawah 45 lah.
yeah,
Tak
nak buat
layak
apa?
bawah 45.
Oh, ya ke? Oh yeah. That's where is it? Where is it? Yes.
Requirements. Alamak.
Oh, requirements.
Oh,
No
kena check juga kan.
wonder. Yeah.
Tapi ni academic staff kita ni muda-muda ni boleh kot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did. You see, a lesson to be learned is that you must look at the requirement, because I did apply for it and they have the nicest way of telling you didn't get it. All right, I did apply and said, okay, is this because I am 60 something? I did ask myself that question, but it's right here. That means I didn't read it. I didn't read it well enough. So you must read that. You can't be it must be younger than 45. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Farida. So if you're above that age, we can take a look at that. All right, so this is what I mean by know the this thing, of the funder. So now I've got to stop sharing again, I suppose, and go back to my, you see. All right, that was just to share with you. So follow the guidelines of the funder that we tried to see just now. Start early. Right,
Prof, belum share slide lagi.
Oh, belum share?
Belum
share? Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay,
Prof
sorry
tekan
about that.
stop sharing tadi kan. Kena
Yep.
share.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm oops.
Boleh, Prof?
I'm trying. Okay, Dr. Farida, I don't seem to be able to get back to the screen. Kejap, ya. I have many things there to share. Oops. Okay, I have some help there.
Okay.
Sorry about that. How do I get to the screen? It says I need to share. And I not share sekarang. Oh yeah. Okay, because the screen became small. Okay, now I can share my screen.
Okay.
Okay, and then I will go back to the slide. Sorry about this, colleagues. All right.
Okay. It's okay
So
now.
follow the guidelines. We find to start early. Okay, we do need to start early. Why? Because writing a good proposal does and can take time. Does take time and can take time. I mean, maybe if it's up, if we somehow produce our own, sometimes I have, thank you. I kind of like clone my my thing, like a template that I created for myself of my own previous research grants, and it may not be as difficult, but it will, it does take time. So we need to start early So for my colleagues here and and congratulations also to my colleagues at CPD for organizing this at this time, and this is in September. This is an excellent time to organize this because you will allow our colleagues to think about this, because the announcement for grants, at least the Malaysian announcement, comes in normally in January. Right? We cannot think of a research topic. Oh my God, RMC just released this announcement. Hey, what am I going to write? It's not going to be as easy. All right. So we already have to be thinking about, okay, what is my next research grant going to be about? What is it that I want to pursue? So even as we're driving, make sure it doesn't disturb your driving, but even when you're having tea or coffee, okay, what am I going to do in next? Something like that. So we have to be sort of like constantly thinking about what we want to do. Don't wait until the call for proposals come and then we start thinking. That's a bit late, better late than never, but we start early so that we have time for the thinking to brew in our minds and for us to think of, okay, so I do this, but what happens after that? So then we can think to ourselves. We have more time to think to ourselves. So start
Prof,
early. Yes.
What presentation, Prof? Slideshow.
Oh, yes.
Ah.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Sorry, Prof. Saya pun asyik kacau je. Sorry.
Bagus. I like that. I like that to be informed. Yeah.
Okay. So start early, follow
Okay,
guidelines.
start
Yeah.
early. So we do that. So the point is, when we start early, we have more time to think about, reflect on, and then the actual writing time will become less if we had thought about it, and so on. Right. So for another thing is focus on the problem. What is the problem that I'm trying to solve, and why does it need to be funded? So what is the problem? And the problem is the most important thing for us to tackle, because there are some problems that may not be worthwhile to be funded. So we really, really need to think about this. Okay, let me just share with you. When we think about a problem, it's not about us. It's not about us. It's not about Dr. Nur Farahida. It's not about Prof. Ratna, wanting to get funded. It's about how can I get funds to help this community that I'm interested in helping to do this research that would help to advance the water sanitation issues that pertaining to sanitation and water, for example. That the funder is also interested in funding. That is within the areas in which the funder will fund. So we can't just write. For example, I now prepare. My work is about is in education and preparing, to be more specific, to prepare teachers of English, for example. I cannot just ask for a research grant where I am thinking about what is the best methodology to teach English, for example. It may not be seen as something fundable by our funders. But how, depending on the funder that we go to, if it's a Ministry of Higher Education, for example, how can I help the country or help the country, the government, for example, through this research? So it has to be about that. It cannot be about, okay, I just want to see, which is the best approach. It's not, whatever we do, we need to link it to the current environment that you are situating your research in. The funder is interested or can only fund what, for example. So you need to be able to see that certain kinds of problems may not be able to be funded. So from whatever it is that we're interested in, we need to then argue to show how that question, that problem that we have is related to, for example, societal needs, related to the government's policy of helping the B40s, for example, and so on. So we need to make that link. It shouldn't be an issue that we only are interested in, but we do not make that link to the society, maybe to the suffering of some people or members of society, for example. So we need to be able to make that link. It's about, this is important because if we don't do this, students with learning disabilities, for example, may not be able to have a good education, for example. So something like that. We need to make that link. And inshallah, after this, we will take a look at how we can do that. So focus on the problem. Not all problems can be funded. And also, okay, let me share this. And this is especially true for education. For example, if I'm an English teacher, or preparing English teachers, do I always have to be asking or doing something related to English? If you're in education, the answer is no, because education is a broad field where I can go beyond English. I can take a look at reading, helping people read, helping indigenous children read better, and so on and so on. If I'm in Arabic, for example, I can go into other areas as well that may not be in Arabic. But if I go into Arabic, then I need Arabic or English. I need to then show how, by doing that, who am I helping? Which members of society will benefit from this, and so on. So that is the how shall I say, the logic that we are presenting is that through this, these people will be helped. Through this will have an impact on these people, and so on. So very important to focus on the problem. What is the problem? Not all problems are going to be funded. So make it relevant. Make it relevant. So it's not just about us. It is you have to say, by doing this, I can help the B40s. I can help the indigenous community. I can help students in rural schools who are who may be not failing, maybe failing, or who may not be doing well, for example, in English, and hence this affects their whatever. So the tie to what it is that the people need and how they can be helped has got to be there. So provide a title that encapsulates the problem to be studied. So the title has to actually reflect the thrust of research. Don't write a title that is meant for a book or an article. That kind of title is not suitable. The title has to reflect the thrust of the research. So it can be something like, that will actually tell us what the research is all about. Okay, so for example, also you can show, we need to show, for example, how it may be important for national interests. It could be national priority areas or the national education blueprint, and so on and so on. Or for sustainable development goals, SDGs, either in Malaysia or abroad, and so on. And to the issues that the funders are interested in and can fund. So how it is important, we need to show that. And in our write-up, it has to be shown. So how do we make a proposal, winning proposal? We need to write a succinct, clear, logical, and cohesive executive summary with a compelling argument as to why the study needs to be conducted and funded. It has to be succinct, it has to be clear, it cannot ramble. 300 words or 400 words that you are given, cannot ramble. We need to write a succinct, clear, logical, and cohesive means everything has got to be joined together nicely. It cannot be like this and suddenly there's another idea that, that doesn't seem to match, for example. So it has to be a clear, succinct, logical, and cohesive executive summary with a compelling argument as to why the study needs to be conducted and funded. That argument has to be there. And it's compelling. That means, we want to make them accept our argument. And we need to ensure that our methodology is clear and with sufficient details. And we need to write clearly and convincingly. Right? We need to write clearly and convincingly. And also provide a reasonable and justified budgets. We need to justify. I need 5,000 ringgit for the enumerators. Okay, so how come it's 5,000 ringgit? This is because per day it's like this, per this, so that they can see that it's justified, it's clear enough that it is justifiable. We justify it so that it becomes justifiable. All these are seen, and this is also an attempt at persuasion. Because if you just ask for this amount of money, this amount of money, this amount of money, and that's it, and then they cannot see whether it's a reasonable thing. So we need to be detailed enough to be able to show that. All right. Any questions at this point? I see 15 things in the chat.
Oh, tak ada, Prof. Itu soalan tanya attendance link.
Attendance link. Okay.
Dr. Mehmet ada soalan ya? You have a question? You are on mute. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Alamak, the line is not clear lah, Dr. Mehmet.
Yeah, because of internet connection, I think.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, Prof. Ratnawati, at the last point, you mentioned that writing the methodology and justified budget. Let's say we submit our proposal, the funding institution provides us some time to revise our proposal based on their criteria, or just they accept or reject?
Okay, a very, very good question, Dr. Mehmet. Very good question. For example, let me, and inshallah, you will be doing this, Dr. Mehmet, applying for next year when it opens, applying for the FLRGS, for example, if you would like to. So here, you have the opportunity to revise your proposal at the university level when they open it for that. Our colleagues will say, okay, this colleague of ours, Dr. Mehmet's proposal is good, but his budget is maybe a little off. So I'm going to propose this. So take a look at what they propose. So we are able to propose or to amend the budget. However, once it reaches the level of Ministry of Higher Education, they will then read our proposal. Ministry of Higher Education or other funders, they will now read our proposal for what it is. All right. Okay, this one is asking for 180,000. No, well, it's it's a bit too high. But because I like this proposal, because it's good. This researcher is a good and excellent proposal, but I think he went overboard a little bit with this one. So they might actually slash it. They can. But we do not want our budget to be a cause of, it shouldn't be, but if it's seen as being too much, we don't want it to happen that way. All right, but they do say, okay, this researcher has a good project. They will say, bring it down to 96,000, for example. They have done that. And or bring it down to 120,000, because they will take a look at it and they will see that well, it is good. This research is good, but it's slightly over where the budget is concerned. I'm going to give this researcher a chance, and we're going to tell him, bring it down. That has happened, Dr. Mohammed. So it's not an outright rejection, but as always, we always try to be cautious. Don't shortchange ourselves such that we won't have enough money, but we will try to see the best possible budget that we can give and then justify so that it is seen as being reasonable. So a good question. Yes, go ahead.
To this statement, let's say as a foreign researchers over here, if we apply for national level funds, does RMC assist to us before applying to this national level? I mean, the revision, the consultation can be done by the help of RMC?
Okay. RMC helps in the process because I was there once. So we do your colleagues at RMC are really excellent people, and they try to help our researchers as much as possible. So what they do in the RMC is to set the processes, in that they allow 2 reviewers to review your proposal, and they will review your proposal to say whether or not I think this needs a little revision here, Dr. Mahmoud. And so take a look, and before we start to get angry at these 2 reviewers, these people don't know what they're talking about, for example, so try to take a look at it. Okay, does it make sense? Yeah, I think it does make sense. So if they do suggest something, try to think about it and see if it's reasonable. If it is reasonable, then by all means, you can follow the advice. If you think it's not that reasonable, you can actually politely, actually now they have a system. Thank you very much to my respected evaluator. However, on this issue, I would like to bring your attention to the fact that this one is like this. So if the evaluator says something and you don't quite agree with it, you can actually say that you thank him for his opinion or for his suggestion, but so it's how we communicate back to that evaluator, and they will, most of the time they will not say oh, this arrogant man doesn't even want to listen to what I have to say. They won't do that. They will, okay, that he has a point here, although I suggested this, but he thinks otherwise. I think he has a point, something like that. So this is something for you to think about, so you do have the opportunity, Dr. Mahmoud, and to all my colleagues here, we have seen and we have learned that and that's why the start early thing, we have to start early. When the announcements come, before the announcements come, Dr. Mahmoud is already prepared. Dr. I know your name starts with a Z, Dr. Z Rahim. You have already prepared your proposal. So you have to prepare your proposal. You when it times come for them to and you're able to submit, try to submit it early, so that you have also enough time to make revisions to your proposal if need be. What is difficult is that, based on our experience, and we are on a learning curve, our lecturers, because of the time, because of the commitments that they have, sometimes we may only be able to submit it rather late in the game. And I've done that too. So I have been there, done that, but it's best, of course, to submit it early enough so that when you have revisions to be made, you can submit it early. All right. I hope I've answered your question, Dr. Mahmoud. Okay. Our sister, do we have a question?
Dekat chat, Dr. Yusra Erina, dia just nak confirm the statement.
Okay.
In order to ensure a success in getting the grants, we need to justify each part of what the fund will be utilised. Kan?
Oh, okay. In the chat, yeah.
In the chat. Dia nak confirmation on that statement lah. We need to justify each part of the fund which will be utilised.
Okay.
Justify.
In a way, for example, you're buying equipment,
Mm.
satu lagi, equipment, this, okay, it's a short one, you know, you don't have to make such a long essay on it. This equipment, needed to analyze the whatever lah, you know, the, you know, for example, chemically ke apa kan, or whatever. So this for that, this, it doesn't have to be an extensively long thing, especially when it comes to expensive things. For example, kan, or for example, if it's something simple like enumerators, if we ask for 5,000, but that 5,000, show them 20 enumerators times 120 per day equals to what, kan, for example. So in that sense, it's that's also justified. Or enumerators to distribute and analyze questionnaires, for example. So if you see distribute and analyze, then we see why they need to be paid higher, for example. So something like that, very short, but clear enough so that we know this is justified.
What I did was when I apply FRGS 2019, saya attach quotation daripada website mana-mana lah, just to support why I put that amount. Boleh juga kan, Prof?
Yes, very, very good. I think that's something to follow our the footsteps of Dr. Nufarida. You know, the quotation, these will definitely show them, okay, look, she's done a homework. Quotation pun ada, for example, especially when it comes to equipment.
Okay. There's another question, Prof. What is the difference between proposal for industrial grant and yang MOHI punya? Normally, what are the differences?
All right. Industrial and MOHI, yeah. Okay. The difference is that there's no difference sebenarnya. There's no difference because the principles are the same, as I said. Good coffee, CPD. CPD provides coffee, good too. All right. So the difference is that what they require in it, for example, in the proposal. So they will have, like, you know, these little, you know, the sections where you have to fill in. So, but the principles of a winning proposal, principles of preparation, principles of writing, showing evidence is also like Dr. Farida, showing evidence when you're in the scientific, I mean, all of it are scientific, but when we are buying equipment, for example, something like a quotation and so on would really help to win people over. So that's part of the persuasive language. When you have a quotation, 3 quotations, for example, or whatever, oh, see, all of these are around this area, around this price. So, you know, and she has taken quite a reasonable whatever. So that is persuasive because it shows us that you have done your homework, you know. So this is, so in terms of that, so whether it's a MOHI, MOSTI, MOHI and MOSTI may have their own, what do you call it, guidelines, for example. Now, for example, I cannot apply for, generally not apply for MOHI grants because in order to do so, you need to have a year, at least baki. Baki means available in your contract 1 more year at least before you can apply. And if for those staff that are on contract, if you're on a yearly contract, you will not have a balance of 1 year when you apply. So then I will know that I may not be able to apply as a principal investigator, but I can help someone who is applying. That is the one that will be the principal investigator. So each of them will have different expectations, different, how shall I say, different requirements. And industrial grants will also set their own guidelines. So may I know who is asking this one?
Apa tu? Apa tu? Kasi
Dr. Faiz.
Yeah,
Dr. Faiz. All right, it's a good question, Dr. Faiz. And I'm thinking industrial grants ni, they know what it is that they want to fund. So again, it is what they will fund, how much they will fund, And
Selalunya
if
ada
they
tema kan, dia ada team dia orang
ada
juga.
theme,
Industrial.
yes. But again, the principles are the same. If they don't have a template, then you can using the principles of persuasiveness, whether it's in terms of language, in terms of abstract, whether in terms of quotation, like Dr. Nurfaida has suggested to us, that's all part of the persuasiveness. So, and then also, okay, this is the thing. Dr. Faiz, in industrial grant, we have to tell them why we are the ones that are best suited to handle this project, for example. So we need to put this is what I do also for some of my consultancies that I've worked with MOSTI, for example, Mastic, under MOSTI. We need to show why we are the ones that are best able to handle this. All right, so you have to show some other evidence, experience, successful projects, and so on and so on and so on. So so each funder may have their own specific templates. If they don't have a template, then we can actually create our own template by putting what are the important aspects. But most of these will have some kind of template. So I hope that answers your question, Dr. Faiz.
Dr. Faiz, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Prof.
Okay. All right. So, okay, if you can always ask again if I have not listened, yeah. So, boleh ya, Dr. Farida? We can continue, ya.
Ya, boleh
Yeah.
proceed.
All right. So, all right. I think we've done this one, right? Clearly and convincingly. Clearly is a very important thing. We need to do that, yeah. Okay. Why am I not able to move my slide? All right. Some other important aspects, yeah. Co-researchers, we need to have a well-balanced team. So we need to have our co-researchers in the appropriate areas that would make a contribution to the research. All right, make sure that our co-researchers are, or they see our team as being a balanced team, and that our co-researchers are in the appropriate areas that would make a contribution to the research. And of course, track record of team. This one is we are persuading them. Okay, Dr. Nurfaida, tengok tu, how many research grants she's got already, so many, more than 10. For example, kan, Dr. Farida. So, and all successfully completed. So when you have that, they will become more confident that you're able to finish it. If we have our young researchers, make sure that, try to include someone with a good track record, someone that has got quite a number of grants, for example, and successfully completed them, and so on. So a well-balanced team is necessary. We need to ensure, and this is part of the persuasive language, from the standpoint of the capabilities and the track record of the researchers. All right, quality of a proposal. We need to be meticulous. We need to have the proper use of language, and it has to be an excellent presentation. No, there are no shortcuts to this, it has to be meticulous. You can't submit something that is like in a draft stage, where maybe the language maybe not so good, for example, yeah. So that's where the time again, we have more time, maybe we can get our friend to look at it, and so on and so on. So it has to be meticulous, because they will look at this. Is this meticulous, ataupun it looks like it's like topsy-turvy and so on. So they will see this. So this is very important. Also, the quality of the proposal, meticulousness, proper use of language, and the presentation. It's excellent presentation. Definitely, that's something that has to be done. All right. Okay, so let's take a look at some executive summaries. Yeah, let's take a look at some executive summaries. As I mentioned to you before, executive summaries or the abstract is a very, very important part of the research proposal, for some people, they have even said that it is the most important part of the research proposal, because all evaluators will first take a look at the title and the executive summary, because we are supposed to summarize it in that number of words, so they don't have to spend so long reading it. If we manage to capture them with our executive summaries, then they will read more. All right, so that's why a lot of people have said that this is a very important part of it. Okay. Okay, now I will share with you some executive summaries, which I will share with you via email later on.
Yang Prof apa? Yang PDF file tu kan? Okay, kami dah share dekat
Ada?
juga.
Okay, thank you so much. By the way, these are also have been distributed to you through the through the calendar, and possibly also in the chat, yeah, Dr. Farida.
Ada share dekat chat juga tadi.
Okay, so it's there in the chat. But let me go through this with you, and then I might ask one of you to tell me something based on that. Okay, here, this comes from a Malaysian grant, and this one is MOHI. So national level grants, I've applied for MOHI grants, and there was one UNICEF that I had applied for, that's international, but that one was MOHI and that was UNICEF and Ministry of Higher Education at the time. I will share that with you if I have time as well. So here, you notice that they put this. Please include the problem statement. They have told us what to do this. Some may not tell you, but if they don't tell you, we still have to know what to do. So here, please include the problem statement, the objectives, the research methodology, the expected output, outcomes, and implication and significance of output from the research project. So they want us to be able to do this in 300 words, no more. Right? Not more than 300 words. So I must share with you the fact that at first it was hard for me. The first time that I had written this, it wasn't such an easy thing to put everything 300 words. Then when I did that, I was able to do that, I used my same template. I kind of like use it again. Not the same thing, but more or less how I had done it previously. I use it for the other grants that I applied for. So for example, let's take a look at this, yeah. Okay, I'll read through this with you. This is from the late one of my grants. This was a TRGS. For example, this is something to do with children with learning disabilities. As you know, as I mentioned, I prepare teachers of English, but I am also in education, and in education, because it's broad, it allows me to go into aspects such as children with learning disabilities and so on, because part of our education is to provide a quality education to students like these, with dyslexia, autism, and so on. All right, so the title is something like this, and this is for the FRGS, yeah. So they have certain expectations with regard to title. They have certain expectations with regard to executive summaries, for example. So for example, profiling of high functioning children with learning disabilities using the neuropsychological framework for differentiated instruction. This sounds like a mouthful, right? Neuropsychological framework. All right, this is because this is research that was conducted by 3 different fields or disciplines, namely education, IT, our colleagues kat mana tu? Dekat KICT. So ICT, education, ICT, and psychology. Right. So this framework. So a little bit of a mouthful, but that was what we did, right? Let me read with you so that we can together see it. Okay, the highlight, the area highlighted in blue, yeah. Learning disabilities in children are often diagnosed only when they begin to show signs of difficulty in school. Frequently misunderstood by their teachers as being slow, lazy, or stupid, many of these children develop low self-confidence and poor self-esteem, withdraw from academic and social activity, and become frustrated, which substantially increases the risk of their developing psychological and emotional problems. Studies have also found that a sizable percentage of delinquents, school dropouts, and those involved in drug abuse and crime have some form of learning disability. Given the fact that about 10% of the population worldwide is estimated to have these conditions, it is important for us to provide for the early identification to mitigate the negative effects, as these children are capable of learning. Okay, all right. This part. What do you think I was? If I may have some response from the audience, what do you think I was trying to do here?
Describe the problem.
Yes. Sorry. Good job, man.
You are on mute, Dr. Mehmet. Okay.
Yeah. Describing the problem generally.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Mehmet.
Putting some data without giving, statistical ones, but generally, as you mentioned already.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Mehmet. Yes, you are right there. Trying to provide the background or the problem itself. So here, I've put the what happens when we don't do this thing, and so on. So this actually, you spend this much of space on the problem. Okay, so here it continues actually here. Consistent with our quest to become a developed nation where our children are regarded as our most valuable assets, it is important that we help these high-functioning, that is cognitively able children with learning disabilities to succeed so that they will become assets to the nation. So this is also actually a part of this. All right, so a lot of space is spent on that. So whereas on the methodology, is only this part, at least in the abstract. All right, using the neurophysiological interface, psychological instruments, studies of cases, and a meta-analysis of research on the subject. This research is aimed at, okay, so this is the methodology. This is the methodology. And, I didn't go into great detail into the methodology at this point, but this is to show the methodology. So this is the aim of this research. This research is aimed at developing a neuropsychological profile of students with learning disabilities such as dyslexia, ADHD, and Asperger's syndrome, and to producing a framework for differentiated instruction, that is, instruction that would help teachers focus on the strengths and needs of these children learning alongside their non-disabled peers. So this is the aim of the research. Didn't take that much space as well. And then this is the expected outcomes. It is expected that the results of this research will contribute towards the government's objective of implementing inclusive education for children with special educational needs, which is in accordance with the thrust of the National Key Result Area, NKRA, the Malaysia Educational Blueprint 2013 to 2025, and the Special Education Regulations 2013 to provide equal access true education for every Malaysian child. So a lot to be done in 300 words. So we have to be able to put it in such a way that that it all comes together and is cohesive in that sense, or what I hope is cohesive. All right, this is this is a part of the grant that is called the TRGS, which is the transdisciplinary grant scheme, where the issue is solved by 3 different disciplines. So this was showing how it is dealt with by the 3 disciplines. And this one shows how, I will share this with you in the hopes that it may help you in some way. All right, so this is a second executive summary showing how it is dealt with by the discipline of education. So this is a framework for differentiate. This is slightly different, the executive summary. So this is the education part, a framework for differentiated instruction for high functioning children with learning disabilities in inclusive education settings. All right, so I started by saying that children with learning disabilities
Cuk Prof.
Ya.
Ada soalan.
nampak tak?
Dr. Mehmet tanya persuasive sentence. Can we say the one that starts with the consonant yang dekat atas tu kan? Prof
Mana
ada
tu?
cakap.
Consonant, children ke?
Tak, maknanya macam where is this persuasive sentence basically kot Dr. Mehmet?
Okay.
The first executive summary tu.
Okay. Oh, first one.
The first one. Where is this persuasive sentence? Is it the word consonant? Consonant with our quest. Yang tu
Okay.
kita dah start nak
I understand. Okay, Dr. Mehmet, you're here, right?
Yes,
Okay, so Dr. Mehmet,
because you emphasize more this persuasiveness in our writing proposal, right? So in this abstract, I guess, I wish to get confirmation. Is there a persuasive approach over here? If there is, I guess, consonant with our guess that seems that a bit more trying to convince the founder.
Yeah. Okay, very good question, Dr. Mohammed. By persuasive, I mean, we persuade through many means. Looking at this one just now, here we are persuading, we take a look at this, we are persuading or trying to persuade the funders through the studies that have been done with, children with learning disabilities. This is what happens. This is this, studies have found this. So we persuade through various means. Number one, through the logical approach. So it's not really, we're not really talking about a word or a sentence, We're talking about the what we put together. When you want to convince someone, you can put together the arguments based on logic, the arguments based on the statistics that you want to show, arguments based on the studies that have found something. So by this we mean persuasive. So it's not, we're not looking for a particular sentence. We are looking at what we have put together, what we have unified such that it becomes persuasive. So there is, okay, so this is part of it. This uses, it's a very good question. So it allows me to expand on this. So this uses the approach of, what studies have found, and here it shows, it uses the statistics where it has been found that 10% of the population worldwide is estimated to have these conditions. So these attempt at persuasion comes from or uses, or the author used the approach of what studies have found, and here we have statistics, and here this is a further attempt at that. It is separated by this part. it is also an attempt to persuade. So consonant with our quest to become a developed nation where children are regarded as a valuable assets. But so you're right here, Dr. Mohammed. This is also a part of it. It is important that we help this. So this sort of like, you know, I cannot show you myself now. Can you see me?
Ada? Boleh nampak
Can you
Prof?
see me? Yeah. All right. So I cannot see you because you know, unless I escape from this. But let me show you this. Kejap ya.
Because you mentioned over here our children. You mentioned earlier, right? To catch the founders' attention. So you refer to our children means that our nation, right?
Yes.
And you say most valuable assets. The children are very important. So
Yeah.
I guess this one catching the founders'
Yeah.
attention.
Dr. Mohammed, you're precisely right. And this is a further attempt to catch their attention, our children. You need to, you know, go to their heart, you know. And if I may, I will, because you have asked this question and made that point, I would like to add to this point because after we submitted that, we were asked to present. And so I saw it as an opportunity to further convince. So I was very happy at the opportunity to present, and I gave analogies of what happened to children like this. And I could see that the evaluators, at least facial, from their facial expression and body language, I felt as if it had somehow made an impact on them, or touched them to a certain extent. Because I shared what a teacher had said about a child with dyslexia who was so afraid about the fact that he couldn't read at the time, that he would hide underneath the stairs in his school, not want to go to school, and so on. So he did that. And when the mother went to see the teacher and to talk about the difficulties that he had in reading, so unfortunately, but this is just, you know, she was told that Puan, which is ma'am, if other children can do that, why can't your son? All right. So when I you know, that was actually to show how important it is to help the children. So so at that point, you know, as you said, you know, valuable assets, you know, it seemed to have made some kind of impact on the evaluators. So yes, we do have to, you know, because okay, we want to make an impact, but at the same time we want to be sincere. Okay, you know, I have to stress upon that. It is something that we have to believe in. Something that we have to believe in. We don't believe in it when we present, or even when we write, we may not be as convincing. So part of our ability to persuade and convince comes from our own conviction that this is important. And if we are convinced that it's important to do this, this will show in our writing, if we do it properly, and also in our presentation. So Dr. Mohammed was talking about this one. This is an added, this is to show how important children are. You know, our nation, our quest to become a developed nation where our children, so it's our children, you know, children of Malaysia, the children of Turkey, and so on. So they are our children, and therefore we have to help them. So this is what Dr. Nur Farahida and Prof. Mira have want us to, they want us to be able to persuade. And so maybe my take-home point on this particular executive summary is that you use here results of studies. Here we have some statistical aspect about how many of them, and this is about the importance of helping our children. So these are some ways, and I'm actually forgive me if you see this as being not helpful, and forgive me for using my own executive summaries. The reason I'm doing this is because I cannot be using other people's executive summaries. For example, this is unless of course I get permission. So, and the easiest, because I'm not so very rajin. I mean, the easiest would be to actually share what I have done. All right. So thank you, Dr. Mohammed. This is a very important question and a good question. Similarly, that was for how the three disciplines wanted to tackle the issue. But this is from education, and so it was slightly different. So you can see that this is slightly different, okay? But still about children with learning disabilities. So here, children with learning disabilities such as dyslexia, ADHD, and Asperger's syndrome are often misunderstood by their teachers as being slow, lazy, or stupid. Many of these children develop low self-confidence and poor self-esteem. These are the effects of these conditions on the children. We want to impress upon the reader, whether the evaluators or fellow colleagues, that this happens to these children, because it's true. They do develop, if not seen early enough, if we ignore, if we add to the problem of saying, why can't you catch what I'm trying to say, for example. So it will add to their low self-confidence, poor self-esteem, withdraw from academic, many of them withdraw from academic and social activity and become frustrated, which substantially increases their risk of developing psychological and emotional problems. Again, a negative effect on them. This is again to persuade, a negative effect on them if it is not addressed. And then here, therefore, it is important to provide for the early identification and intervention, as research has shown that a number of these children are cognitively able and are capable of learning, and hence are high functioning. Given the fact that Malaysia is committed towards inclusive education, where children with learning disabilities are placed in mainstream classes, there is a need to provide for differentiated instruction that focuses on the children's strengths and needs, because carefully designed, specialized instruction plays an integral role in their learning success. It is also crucial to determine how mainstream teachers and students with learning disabilities cope with inclusive approaches within the mainstream education system. So this approaches it from education. And as you can see, when it comes to the methodology, here, using both, it's only like this here, using both qualitative and quantitative means of data collection and a meta-analysis of research on the issue. The study is aimed at on the issue. So this is the methodology part until on the issue. And then this study is aimed at investigating the mainstream teachers' knowledge and practice of teaching children with learning disabilities and how these children cope in mainstream schools. Like this, okay? And then this is an addition to the methodology. In addition, using the neurological profile and of high-functioning children, it is also aimed at, another aim, producing a framework for differentiated instruction to facilitate mainstream teachers to steer their special needs children towards success in learning. It is expected that the results of this research will contribute towards, again, this is, so for myself, I get sort of like, and you're welcome to, if you would like, I will share this with you later on. Or you have it now, actually. For me, the flow that I finally was able to establish for myself was when I did that. Of course, the first thing that you want to show is the problem. The methodology does not take much space. Here, it ends with, it is expected that the results of this research will contribute towards the government's objective of implementing inclusive education for children with special educational needs and so on and so on. So this is the outcome of this research. Okay, perhaps I may take, this is a problem statement in the FRGS and so on. There is also a section called the problem statement. How does a problem statement differ from an executive summary? All right, an executive summary contains all these things that they ask you to put, at least here, yeah. It has to have all that. So because you cannot have all that in 300 words, you have to choose what to spend your the most time on, and that should be the problem. The problem, we need to establish the problem, show the importance of the problem, and that should take the most space in that 300 words. All right, then and so what is a problem statement? A problem statement, the aim of the problem statement is to actually tell us what the problem is. All right, so here again, let me just go through this quite quickly. The implementation of inclusive education in Malaysia can be considered to be a radical educational innovation, as it requires children with learning disabilities to be placed in mainstream classrooms together with children without. The government has targeted that by 2025, 75% of children with special needs are to be enrolled in inclusive education programs, and every teacher equipped with a basic knowledge of special education. All right, an issue that is of central concern is the teacher's readiness to implement inclusive education approaches in the mainstream classroom. That is, their knowledge of the strengths and the educational needs of children with learning disabilities and how to teach them. For the government to successfully implement the policy, the children will have to be ready with the necessary knowledge and skills. Changes will also have to be made to the mode of instruction to accommodate children with learning disabilities. There is a need to provide for differentiated instruction. That is, instruction that is tailored to meet the individual needs of the children in the classroom, as well as one that focuses on their strengths, because carefully designed, specialized instruction plays an integral role in their learning success. All right, so here, all these are aimed at, to provide an argument and to tell us what the problem is. And then given the relative novelty of inclusive education in Malaysia, our assumption is that mainstream teachers do not have this necessary knowledge and skills to cater to the special needs of children with learning disabilities and provide differentiated instructions to respond, to the variance among the learners in his or her classroom. Hence, we see an urgent need. Okay, here is an attempt at getting the attention again. Hence, we see an urgent need to conduct this study, to investigate how children, this is the urgent need. These are words that you can use to investigate how children or teachers of children with learning disabilities cope in the mainstream classroom, and to provide a framework for differentiated instruction that would help them to do so. So these are some ways in which we can do this. We laid the problem up there, and here I emphasize this with the fact that there is an urgent need to conduct this study. So we are appealing to the evaluators, to the funders, about the urgency of conducting this study. All right, there are several executive summary, but I do want to share with you, and you can take a look at this. Yeah, all these are tries to show the problem or tries to explain the problem. Okay, because we do have our science brothers and sisters from the hard sciences. So this was my latest one on called a psychological education framework for fostering a healthy and active lifestyle in the prevention of type 2 diabetes. All right, this is focusing on the educational approach. Okay, again, the problem has taken a big chunk of the 300 words. Here, I use mainly statistics. So this is something that you can use. It's not always, you don't always have to use statistics. We can use it, but this is of course one of the means to show, to provide support for what it is that we want to do. All right. So for example, Malaysia is the most obese country in Asia. Of course, this is not written by me, or it's not said by me, but it is something that we had actually looked at, research on, and stated in more than one publication. So Malaysia is the most obese country in Asia, with about 50% of the population being either overweight or obese. In just 2 decades, the number of those overweight has increased by 80.7%, and those obese by 302%. Malaysia also has the highest occurrence of type 2 diabetes in Asia, and one of the highest in the world. About 3.6 million Malaysians, which is close to 1 out of 5, suffer from diabetes. By 2025, it is projected that 7 million Malaysian adults will have diabetes. The rapid rise in the incidence of obesity and diabetes is alarming, because obesity is highly associated with the risk of developing type 2 diabetes, and diabetes is one of the leading causes of death worldwide, killing more than 1.6 million people in 2016. It also reduces the health-related quality of life of sufferers and puts them at an increased risk of stroke, kidney disease, and blindness. These are the negative effects of diabetes, and how obesity and being overweight is linked to diabetes. All right, hence it is crucial that we address this problem by educating Malaysians on the importance of maintaining a healthy weight and adopting a healthy and active lifestyle, as type 2 diabetes can be prevented. Given the scarcity of studies, here is to show the fact that there is a scarcity of studies. So given the scarcity of studies on the effectiveness of diabetes education programs on how to motivate Malaysians to adopt a healthy and active lifestyle, this research seeks to address the issue. So here we're showing that not many, there's a scarcity of studies, and then this research seeks to address the issue on how to motivate Malaysians. Okay, and then the methodology again is not too much, using both qualitative and quantitative methodology by focusing, this study focuses on the following objectives, and that is identifying the eating habits and lifestyle practices of Malaysian secondary school students, discerning their awareness of the contributing factors towards the development of diabetes, and proposing a psychological educational framework for reducing the incidence of diabetes by fostering lifestyle changes through education. And then again, at the end, the results of this research will contribute towards the national priority area of promoting good health and well-being among Malaysians, and a framework for effective diabetes education programs. All right, so this is that.
Ada soalan, Prof?
Yeah,
Can we
thank you so
include
much.
reference in problem statement?
A reference, yeah, okay. I have not done that because I believe, thank you, it's a very good question. And as you can see in this one, kan, of course, I didn't make up these, and of course, I would prefer to actually put the references, kan? Yeah, but somehow, not in the executive summary anyway. Kalau executive summary, please check on that lah, yeah. If some of our colleagues can also check, but I believe, but don't quote me on this. I believe I may have either attended a training program or been told that we don't put references, for example, in abstracts. How about you, Dr. Farida? Have you ever done that? Put abstracts in, references?
Saya rasa saya tak pernah buat, tapi macam let's say for a survey ke apa, saya akan kata lah according to a survey done by siapa. Saya akan
Yes, done by that kan. So generally I don't believe we do that. Although you know, takkanlah, you know, this is not something that we make up ourselves, right? I mean, so we wish we can do this, but of course, if we perhaps in the problem statement, any problem statement, to my colleagues, this one is it exactly summary?
Tapi nanti kan ada satu di kolom for ni saya refer to FRGS lah. Ada kolom yang kita terangkan research kita lagi kan. Maksud tu
Yes,
kalau
yes. So
kita
there are
ha.
other places, and I believe ni executive summary. This one was supposed to have been my apa nama problem statement. So sometimes I do believe problem statement ni boleh, but somehow I didn't do it. I didn't put it here. Tapi alhamdulillah dapat. Okay, sorry.
Rezeki.
And sorry. Also, okay. Some share. It has to include the aspects. Okay. So here, importance to the nation for Malaysian grants, and why it needs to be funded. As I see this to be the most important part of the executive summary. So the executive summary and the problem statement is meant to persuade and to convince. All right. So let's pray that all of us do it, and may Allah reward our efforts with success. And my apologies, I'm no longer the director of the Research Management Center. That was written when I was there. I couldn't find the original copy, the word copy to make this change for today. I couldn't find it, so but I will do that. Once
Soalan, Prof. Dr. Muhammad Aslam is raising his hand.
Okay, Dr. Muhammad Aslam. Raising his hand. Okay. Let me. Okay.
Dr. Aslam has a question.
Yes, Dr. Aslam, we have a question, Dr. Aslam. Yes. Okay, I see you, Dr. Aslam.
Aslam. Ke dia tertekan tu?
Oh, agaknya.
Jawab pun.
All right. Do we have other questions? Now I get to see Dr. Siti Aisyah. There are many of our colleagues here. So okay, yeah.
But I think the way Prof baca statement tu pun macam menusuk di hati jugalah. Cara
ya,
baca.
terima kasih. Cara membaca pun ada efek ya.
Mungkin lah sebab rasa macam touching lah juga cara up and down tu kan.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Dr. Mehmet has a question. Yes.
Okay, Dr. Mehmet.
Sorry, I text over here, but I wish to highlight. I think in abstract, as we do in our journal papers or book chapters, we do not use citations, right?
Okay, I think you're right because that's why I've never used them, Dr. Mehmet. Because
but in executive summary, even though you mentioned over here very limited 300 words, means that like the normal journal paper abstract. But I guess some executive summary is a bit longer, let's say 4 or 5 pages. Then we may cite in this part of proposal, I guess.
Yeah, perhaps, because in a lot of executive summaries, but some allow a bigger one, perhaps, as you said. Yeah, probably the funding institutions have some directions about usage of citations. Yeah. So again, the key thing here is to understand what our funding institution has said. What do they say about this? If they allow that, that's fine. And but with space being a premium, and there is this thing about abstracts not necessarily not having citations and so on. So this is something that I think our colleagues can go on. We don't need to provide citation, because by the time you do that, then you may find that you have too little space for anything. And they also have said to us that this is something that we can or should not be providing citations. All right. Any questions? Any other questions?
Yes, Dr.
Yes.
Sahid raising his hand.
Yes.
Dr. Sahid.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullah.
Waalaikumsalam.
So thank you, Prof, for the
Warahmatullah.
presentation, and we really benefited a lot from some of the things you mentioned, especially when you are sharing your samples. I need a clarification that if somebody has gotten a rejection before, for example, in grants, FRGS, and perhaps maybe you think your topic is okay, or maybe there are some, of course, because there are a lot of applicants, of course, so everybody will not be at the same time. So how do you know that my proposal should be resubmitted, maybe rewritten? How do I know, or I need to think in another direction? So how do I know what I have presently need to be rewritten? What is the problem? Or I need to look for another topic entirely. So what was the way out? Thank you very much.
Okay, a very good and important question, Dr. Shahid. And that is, how do you know, right? Okay. Number one, we have to open ourselves to evaluating ourselves. When we have not gotten a positive response, or we have not it hasn't been supported, or it was as Dr. Shahid said, rejected. So what could it be due to? This is something, of course, all of us as researchers should try to think, okay, why perhaps was it that? So then perhaps we try again to look at these things. Is it because I did not make the link to the society or to the nation of how this affects or helps the nation, and so on and so on? Is a problem something that that people will fund, for example? So these are questions, that we as researchers should always be open to. Whether we are submitting journal articles or research grants, we should always be open to the fact that perhaps there might be some weaknesses. Perhaps, all right? This is a perhaps. So, okay, if there are weaknesses, if there are things I should change, what should I change? For example, so go by, okay, is a problem something that people will fund? That's number one. Number two, have I shown the connection between what I want to do with the country's needs, or with the needs of the funder? For example, maybe Islamic Development Bank wants to fund something. Is it an issue that they want to fund? Maybe it's a good proposal, but it's not related to the issue that they want to fund, for example, right? So that's why we need to know what they want to fund. And or maybe it's a good proposal, but maybe there wasn't sufficient money that year. That could happen too. So if we feel that, okay, I shared this with Brother Mohammed, and he feels to think he thinks that, for example, Dr. Mohammed, he said that perhaps I can improve on this aspect a little bit more. So if you give it to a trusted colleague, for example, but of course we have to be careful too, because this is not yet published, this is not yet secured a grant. But if you have a good colleague that you would like to share it with, then then perhaps you can get feedback on that, and we can be open with feedback. However, as I mentioned, sometimes there may be nothing wrong with the proposal. And let me share with you this one. This proposal, this one, my proposal, this one, I did not make any changes to this, but the year before, it had not made it. So I don't know at that time. At that time, I didn't know whether it had not made it at the IIM level or and so on. But the next year, when we were asked to come up with research proposals, I said, okay, let me do this one. So I actually used the same thing, and this proposal on boys, narrowing the gender gap, was very, very well received by the evaluators in IIM, as conducted by the RMC, and then later on at the national level at MOHI. So this one used exactly the same proposal and exactly the same executive summary without any changes. So I submitted the same thing. but I was also open to the fact that could there have been something and so on that I needed to change, right? So on that note, Dr. Shahid, okay, Dr. Shahid. So sometimes it could be that not sufficient, funding was not sufficient for that year. Sometimes there may be aspects that we need to improve upon. So this is something that we can either at our kuliah level or among our close colleagues, work and brainstorm. Okay, what do you think of it about this, Doctor? Do you think this is, there's some weaknesses here that I need to improve upon? So using the network that we have, and that is our colleagues, we can actually try to improve on that perhaps, or use exactly the same proposal because we believe that there's nothing wrong with it, but it could have been rejected because of not, this funding is not sufficient, because that happens. Okay. All right. Any other questions, Doctor? Yeah. I am very happy that my colleagues have asked a lot of questions.
So far tak ada.
Ada ya? Okay. Allow me this, ya, Dr. Farida. This is just to share with you aspects of the proposal. For example, this is a proposal that was, this one is the most recent one. So the executive summary, this is for FRGS. So the executive summary and so on and so on. But because I have not shown the methodology part. So this is something that I do sometimes, because visually, if you take a look at something that looks like there's a lot of things there that's been written, our mind, the evaluator's mind may block itself out. Oh, banyaknya nak baca. So long. So we try to introduce these things. For example, part 1, another part 2. And then under part 2, for example, there might be other items like pilot tests, participants and size of the sample, for example, and so on and so on. Yeah. Jadi, so this is aimed at making it reader friendly, so that it is within this methodology for this particular year is a little bit shorter than the ones that I have actually submitted and got funded. But basically I try to do that this, like put parts to it and then subheadings, and this will help the evaluator or any reader to know what's underneath part 1, what's under part 2. Because I did this because some of my other methodologies had been longer than this, but that year I did not have too much time. But if you do have a longish or a methodology that's slightly on the long side, you can or perhaps should subdivide it into aspects like these, pilot tests and so on, so that they, even if they are not able to read it, they say, oh, okay, they're about pilot test, oh, done pilot test, participant size of sample, okay, and then your eyes just sort of like go through it and so on. So it has to be sufficiently detailed for them to know that you know what you want to do, for example, and so these are the flow chart and so on, which all of us are expected to do. And this kind of thing, I also put things on to write articles when you would start, so that they will know that you planned on this at this point and not here after the report. Try to this is also another attempt at persuasion. This is when you plan to start writing articles and so on. These are some of the things that you said you would do, and so on and so on. So that is what I would like to share. Okay, and now let me go back to my presentation and let me stop sharing that other part. Have I stopped sharing?
Dah stop sharing dah.
Dah kan?
Uh-uh.
All right, so now I will share again this one.
Assalamualaikum, Prof. Sorry
Yes.
to interrupt.
Okay.
Can I ask you regarding the number of the students for the grant application?
Okay. Number of
Is it much
students
better?
apa? Sekejap, ya.
Yang is it okay for us to go for just PhD, or can we have how to say a combination of PhD and master student, or we just go for 2 master student, especially for the new lecturer like me? Thank you, Prof.
Okay, okay. Wait, I want to see you, Doctor. I'm trying to get back to my screen where you all are. Let me just kejap ya. Okay, I see it. Okay, this was asked by
Dr. Tahara.
Dr. Tahara ya.
Dia tak on camera.
Oh, okay, tak apa. Alright. So Dr. Tahara, the FRGS at least does allow tapi kena baca ya, because guidelines may change, but if they have certain guidelines, if for example if it's a short FRGS, not too long, you are allowed perhaps to take master students, or given the fact that it's FRGS, for example, you boleh, you can actually take on master students, and 2 master students would be the equivalent of 1 PhD student in terms of taking a number of students that you can take. So in our proposal, we can say that we would like to have 2 master students, because perhaps some kuliahs, I know some of my colleagues dulu when I was at RMC, I had a lot of engineering colleagues. Sometimes they don't get that many PhD students, but they may get master students, for example. So you can take on master students, but again, please check this out with the latest guidelines, because these guidelines do evolve and change. And I have not applied for the FRGS since 2019 because I'm not eligible to do so because of my status. But boleh, Dr. Tara, and you can take 2 should be fine. But whether 1 master student would be all right is something that you may need to check lah. This is something that you can ask. That's why if you start ahead right now, we can ask our more learned members either at the RMC, or you can ask our officers at the RMC whether or not this would be okay. And also, of course, read the guidelines as to what they allow. That's very important because
Okay, Prof. Thank you so much for your explanation. Take care, Prof.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Tara. Yeah. All right. Any questions, Dr. Farida?
Tak ada.
Tak ada ya? Okay, all right. Let us go back to this.
Prof masih nak ada beberapa slide lagi ya?
Ada sikit saja.
Okay.
Kita habis pukul 12 kan?
Ini saya, ada lagi 10 minutes.
Bagus kan kita punya timing?
Bagus. Boleh
I'm
saya
just making a joke. I'm just making a joke here. All right, so we had taken a look at some executive summaries, and so in summary, for the part 1, to conclude, I just would like to summarize that the elements of a good proposal is that number 1, it should be clear and informative, and the title should be clear and informative. It should be convincing. The executive summary should be convincing. We should have a clear problem statement justifying why it is a problem that needs to be funded. And even in the executive summary, because the executive summary does include the problem statement. So within the executive summary and in the problem statement itself, this is to justify whether we use statistical means, logical means, results of studies, and so on. This is what Dr. Farida and Prof. Mira had mentioned, the persuasive aspects as to why, the study needs to be funded. And appropriate research methods with sufficient detail and a realistic and well justified budget and schedule. So it has to be realistic and well justified. All right, so the part two, I'm not spending too long on that, but this is the oral part of our proposal. Inshallah, some of our colleagues here will be applying for grants that require them to present, when you're shortlisted. And we pray that you will be invited to present your proposal. And this presentation of your proposal should be greeted with much happiness, a lot of happiness, because this is a further opportunity for you and us to convince our funders that it deserves to be funded. Our research deserves to be funded. So this a few things that I would like to say, and this is based on my own experience as well as being my experience as the RMC director at the time, where I followed the colleagues who were presenting their proposals, whether at PRGS or TRGS, to give them support and so on. So this is based on my own experience as a researcher, as well as a colleague of my colleagues that are presenting. Yeah. So number one, we should know our proposal well and our study well. We have to know. We have to know what we want to do. Granted, sometimes when we write the proposal, we haven't really thought about it. Sometimes that happens. But by the time we present, we really need to know it well, so that you can answer well and present well. We have to have conviction on. We have to be convinced or have a conviction in the importance of our research. That means, I'm not doing this just to do research. I'm convinced that this is important, and that conviction will show when we do something that is based on our conviction, on our realization that it is important. The way we say it, the passion in which we say it, will be seen. And but of course, when we have this conviction, from the emphasis that we put on our own presentation, our own presentation is more likely to be clear if we have this conviction, because we know this is what we want. But of course, we have to have conviction in our research, but yet not be arrogant about it. All right, so have conviction, be confident. All right, be confident but not arrogant. Be confident. We need to have that confidence. Present in the best possible manner. Be always well prepared. Always, my tip on this also is to always show the big picture before the specific things. So always, if we show results, even we always show the big picture of the results before we show the more specific results. So present in the best possible manner. Be ready for questions, because there's going to be questions. So be ready for that. Do not be defensive. If people ask us questions, okay, don't be too defensive. Maybe they have a point there. So if you think they have a point there, I said, "Oh, thank you very much, Prof. I think that's an excellent point. I will take this into consideration and make amendments." Perhaps you can say that I can make some amendments to this proposal. But if you think that what you have done is something that you would like to maintain, so do maintain it. And you can say something like, "Thank you very much to my respected evaluators. Our group has benefited from your comments. However, on this particular one, we would like to reassert the fact that, so and so and so and so that if this is something that you feel should be maintained, you will then defend it, but not be defensive about it. To defend and be defensive are two different things. So you can defend that and then let them know that you know. And do not get angry. All right, don't get angry, because sometimes we ask questions that may be sometimes, you know, it could be that some of our colleagues may want to see to what extent you know, we know about something. So maybe sometimes the questions are asked, and we but sometimes we may not you know, we may get upset, but don't be. If you want to answer politely, answer firmly, answer assertively, but don't get angry, because that is not a thing to do. Yeah, so be careful about that, because this part is something that we don't want to do, because sometimes, you know, we say, oh, so many questions and on and on and on, but don't this is something we should not get angry about. All right, with this, I would like to thank our colleagues, you know, for their participation in this workshop. I do hope that this has benefited all of you. We do hope that all of you will apply for research grants. Do not be disappointed by or demotivated by the fact that we may not have succeeded in once or twice or even 3 or 4 times. I have had many colleagues who did not succeed when they tried 4 times, and after that, the 5th time they succeeded. Doesn't mean they're bad, doesn't mean what they did was not good, but sometimes things may not have been right. If we may take an example from our own history, you know, Ibn Sina read the metaphysics of Aristotle 40 times before he could appreciate you know, what it was that Aristotle was trying to say, for example. And Colonel Sanders from Kentucky Fried Chicken, that I love eating Kentucky Fried Chicken once in a while, despite the fact that it's fried. But you know, he had, if I'm not mistaken, presented or tried to have this as a franchise, or even get it off the ground at least 99 times and so on. It failed, but at the last time he succeeded. So from our own tradition, Ibn Sina, you know, who would actually go venture and actually go on at it so that he could appreciate the, you know, what was being said by Aristotle. And for people who have led to successful franchises all over the world, such as Colonel Sanders, failure, we can learn from our failures. We should not be disabled by our failures, but rather we should pick ourselves up and go at it. All right, go at it. So with that, I would like to thank you once again. I really hope that this has benefited all of you, and thank you so much, Dr. Nufarida, for chairing the session. I don't know if there are any last minute questions. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Ratna, for a very interesting and persuasive session. Gitu.
Thank you very much for using the title of the thing as well. Thank you so much, Dr. Farida.
Prof cakap KFC tadi, tiba-tiba saya lapar pula kan.
Kan?
Lapar nak lunch ni.
Siapa tak suka KFC? KFC original recipe. Siapa nak bawa kepada saya boleh ya.
Okay, any last minute questions for the participants? Alhamdulillah, we have come to the end of the talk today. And please fill in the evaluation form, but you need to log in as IUM staff. I hope Prof Mehmet can access now. Are you okay now? Okay. So if there's no question, let's end our session today with recitation of Tasbih Kifarah and Surah Al-As.